Well, I've laid out the bottom, so the bottom has a large dovetail that goes in here, and the piece that it at Winter Tour has this large dovetail. The piece at Yale did not. So I'm going to put, I like the look of it, so I like that. So we've got it laid out here. The molding, this bottom piece of mahogany is the beginning of the molding, the first piece of molding, and it's flush with the bottom. So I've got to cut this to the right size and expose this dovetail here, and then the two pieces fit together. So that's where we're going to start. I'm sawing out the big dovetail here. We'll have to see how well I did. Well, that's a pretty good fit for a 10-inch dovetail. So it's nice and tight in there, and so now I've got to take it apart and cut out the form on the front. So I'm cleaning up the curves now. I've got a number 5 here, 3/4. While the router hogs out the bulk of the material, it doesn't get it all. And so you have to carve the shape here. Now that I've got the front piece of mahogany attached with the dovetail and molded along the front edge there the way it's supposed to be, now I've got the sides cut to size, both width and height. And so it's a little tricky joinery over here for cutting the dovetails to the bottom. You can see that I took a little bit of material off here. Cut a dado, so to speak, and I picked 3/32. It could be 1/8 of an inch, but the reason you do that is that this dovetail here on the end is less than 3/4, which is what this is, so that the molding on the side hides the dovetails. So as long as they're less than 3/4 of an inch, but this corner here on the front gets cut out so that it sits on top of this piece of molding, while this lower part is dovetailed into the bottom. So that's a little complicated, and you need to do it carefully so that this edge here really isn't seen, but you can see there's a 1/2 inch left off the front. I had trimmed a 1/2 inch off the front of these already, and written down where they match, so that I can put it back on here so the grain on the side will match there. So the next thing to do is to cut out the dovetails here on the bottom.
He wrote in 1980, I'm trying to do something different.
chopping out the last of the pins here. This Eastern white pine is pretty easy to work. Now we only have to fit them together. Well, I've got the dovetails fitted to the bottom now, and just checking to square it up here. So there you have it. We've got a ½ inch here, which will go onto the front. There's a piece that goes on the front here as well as over here. And so the next thing to do would be to put in, well, either do the sliding dovetail that's on the top here, or make the drawer blades that get dovetailed into the sides here. So this part here, it'll be a while before we glue it up, but this part here is pretty much done. Here I'm putting a ½ inch rabbet on the back of the sides that'll make room for the back. And as you can see there, I've already put in the 1/8 inch deep by 3/4 wide dados along the sides for the drawer runner. Cutting out the drawer runners. Well, I've got the drawer blades made now, and they were a bit of work. Obviously getting the beading on the edge here looking decent was pretty good. And then I glued a piece of, this is soft maple that I had laying around, to the back to keep them flat and add strength to the drawer blade. So now the next thing to do is to put the dovetails on the edges. This is my 2-router setup here with a guide to put the dovetails in the side. So first I hog out quite a bit with a straight bit and then use the dovetail bit, and what it produces is this right here, as you can see. So that's about a 2-inch in length and 3/8 of an inch deep, with an 1/8 inch dado already, so that comes to 5/8 of an inch. So that's what we need on the sides. Well, I've got the drawer dividers in now, so you can see that through the other videos how I went about it. They're dovetailed in to the sides here and offset by a 1/2 inch. And these pieces here I ripped off the front of the side when I was making it up. So the grain on this side matches perfect. This side, of course, there's no match, but so this will be the front. They have to be trimmed down, but it leaves an 1/8 of an inch in here for the cock beading, which has to match. These have to be cut to a 45-degree angle there, and then the cock beading, 1/8 inch cock beading, fits in along here. So I've got it together, and the reason I did it this way is so that I was reasonably sure that this is the actual dimension that I'll use for the top, because I've got to make a sliding dovetail for the top, and I wanted it to be exact, or near as exact as possible. So now I can take the measurements off of here and transfer them to the underside of the top. So that'll be the next step.